Assalamu alaikum dear students. In previous lecture, we have discussed about structure of neuron, means unit of nervous system. Today in this lecture, we will discuss about what are the types of neurons and transmission of nerve impulse and transmission of neuron. First, we will discuss what are the types of neurons. Types of neurons. Mainly three types of neurons are present in human body. First one is sensory neuron. Second is motor neurons. Third is connector neuron or relaying neurons. Connector neurons or we can say that these are also called as relaying neurons. In human body, three types of neurons are present. One is sensory neuron, second is motor neurons, third are connector neurons, or we can say that relaying neurons. Now, what are sensory neurons? Sensory neurons are those neurons which transmit, which transfer nerve impulses, or we can say that simply impulse or electric signal from receptors to the central nervous system. Central nervous system means brain or spinal cord. Brain and spinal cord. Spinal cord. Sensory neurons are those neurons which transmit nerve impulses from receptors. Receptors are mainly present in sense organs. In human body, 5 sense organs are present. One is eyes, nose, ear, skin, tongue. These receptors are present in sense organs. These sensory neurons are in contact with these receptors. These sensory neurons transmit impulses from receptors to the brain and spinal cord. That neurons are called sensory neurons. Neurons are called sensory neurons. Second neurons are called motor neurons. These motor neurons transmit impulses, means electrical signal, from brain and spinal cord to the effectors or glands which are present in human body. Transmit impulses from brain and spinal cord to the effectors. Effectors are mainly muscles and glands present in human body. Those neurons which transmit impulses from brain and spinal cord, means from central nervous system to the effectors, means muscles and glands. These neurons are called motor neurons. Now, third type of neurons are called connector neurons, or we can say that relaying neurons. These neurons, connector neurons or relaying neurons, are present in central nervous system. These neurons are present in central nervous system, means brain and spinal cord. These neurons, connector neurons, as the name indicates, these neurons connect these motor neurons. These neurons are connected with these motor neurons. Motor neurons are those neurons which transmit impulses from brain and spinal cord to the effectors, which are mainly muscles and glands present in human body. Means they transmit impulses from brain and spinal cord to the effectors, to the glands. Now, third type is connector neurons or relaying. These are present in central nervous system, these neurons, which are present in mainly brain and spinal cord. And these neurons are connected with these motor neurons. They connect motor neurons together. These are the third types of neurons. Three types of neurons which are present in human body, which are present in human nervous system. As we can see that these are present in human nervous system. Now, how is nerve impulse transmitted from one neuron to the next neuron? Transmission of nerve impulse. This is an important question. Transmission of nerve impulse. How nerve impulse is transmitted from one neuron to the next neuron. In previous lecture, I have mentioned that structure of neuron. Structure of neuron. Neuron consists mainly of three parts. One is dendrite, second is cell body or soma, and third one is axon. These are three parts, main basic parts of neuron, or we can say that nerve cell, which is longest cell in human body. Now, how is nerve impulse transmitted from one neuron to the next neuron? From one neuron to the next neuron. That is the question we will discuss in this lecture. The two neurons are not connected, are not placed, or we can say are not connected end to end. Are not connected, they are not connected together. They are not connected. The two neurons are not connected to each other. Are not connected to each other. Now, question is, then how is nerve impulse transmitted? If neurons are not connected to each other, if they are not placed end to end, then how is nerve impulse transmitted from one neuron to the next neuron? That is the question we will discuss in. These neurons are not connected to each other. They are not placed end to end. There is always small gap, small microscopic gap present in between two neurons. Neurons are not connected end to end. Between two neurons, there is a small microscopic gap present. Which is mainly called synapse. That is called a synapse. Now, how can you define what is synapse? A synapse is a small microscopic gap present in between two neurons, over which nerve impulses are passed. When transmitted from one neuron to the next neuron. That is simply called a synapse. Or we can say that in simple terms, it is a small microscopic gap present in between two neurons. That is simply called a synapse. SYNAPSE. That is called a synapse. Now, how is nerve impulse transmitted from one neuron to the next neuron? For example, we take two neurons. One is A and second neuron is B. This is sensory neuron. Look towards this diagram I have shown here. This is sensory neuron. This is axon of sensory neuron. And this is another neuron, this is here dendrite of next neuron. This is dendrite of. Small gap is present between two neurons, which is called a synapse. Small microscopic gap is present between two neurons, which is called a synapse. Look towards this. This is small gap, which is present between two neurons. This is axon of sensory neuron, and this is dendrite of next neuron. Meaning this is next neuron, this is sensory neuron. In between these two neurons, there is a small gap. This is small gap. This is called a synapse. Small microscopic gap present between two neurons is called a synapse. Now, how is nerve impulse transmitted? You know that the receptors are present in sense organs. Means if skin is a sense organ, it contains receptors. The energy received, the energy provided by the stimulus. Is received by receptors present in sense organs. When stimulus takes place in our surroundings, the receptors present in our sense organ, means we take here example of skin. It receives energy from stimulus. Due to this, chemical reaction is set up. and this chemical reaction travels in the form of electrical signals. In the form of electrical signals. In the form of electrical signals. Or we can say that simply nerve impulse, which travels in the form of nerve impulse. When the receptors present in sense organ, mainly skin, it receives energy provided by the stimulus, and hence chemical reaction is set up. And hence chemical reaction is set up, which travels in the form of electrical signals, or we can say that nerve impulse. First, this electric signal is received, is picked up by the dendrites of sensory neuron. The sensory neuron, which is in contact with the receptors, the dendrites of the sensory neuron picks up this electric signal, and from this dendrites or dendron, it is passed to the cell body, which is second part of neuron. From the cell body, this signal is transmitted to the axon. Here I have shown these arrows. This is transmission of nerve impulse. First, it is picked up by the dendrites, then cell body, and then the axon. When it reaches, this electric signal reaches near the end of axon of sensory neuron. End of axon of sensory neuron. Now, how it is transmitted in this small microscope guide, so that it may be picked up by the dendrite of next neuron. Here, when it reaches, this electric signal reaches there near the terminal end, you can say the end part of this axon or sensory neuron. It produces a neurotransmitter substance. It produces a neurotransmitter substance. It produces a neurotransmitter substance. When it reaches the end of this axon of sensory neuron, it produces a neurotransmitter substance. Means it releases chemical. It releases chemical substance. That chemical substance is called a neurotransmitter substance. It is this neurotransmitter substance which is passed over this small microscopic wave, which is called a synapse. When this neurotransmitter substance or chemical substance is released from the end due to electric signal, which reaches here end part of axon of sensory neuron, it produces a chemical substance, or we can say that neurotransmitter, which is passed over this small microscopic gap, which is called a synapse, and then it is picked up by the dendrite of next neuron. And this neurotransmitter substance, which is released from the end of this axon of sensory neuron, is transmitted over this synapse, over the small microscopic gap, and then it is picked up by the, and hence electric signal is picked up by the dendrite of next neuron due to release of this chemical substance, which is mainly acetylcholine. This is the neurotransmitter substance. This is an important point. Note this acetylcholine, which is released, which is neurotransmitter substance. Due to this, electric signal is picked up by the dendrite of next neuron, and then it is again passed to the cell body or soma, and then again to the axon of this neuron, and then small microscopic gap occurs. Neurotransmitter substance is also released, which is passed over the synapse, and then electric signal is picked up by the next neuron. In this way, nerve impulse is transmitted from one neuron to the next neuron, and then to the third neuron, This is the mechanism how nerve impulse is transmitted from one neuron to the next neuron. Mainly, a small microscopic gap occurs between two neurons, means between end of axon of sensory neuron and the dendrite of next neuron. Over the small microscopic gap, neurotransmitter substance is released, which is simply called mainly which neurotransmitter substance is released, that is acetylcholine. And due to this, electrical signal is transmitted over the small microscopic gap. Then it is picked up by the dendrite of next neuron, and then it is picked up by the next neuron. In this way, that is, nerve impulse is transmitted from one neuron to the next neuron. Another important point is that this transmission of nerve impulse is unidirectional. It is unidirectional process. Why it is unidirectional process? Because the neurotransmitter substance which is released, which is present only on one side of the neuron. And hence we can say that this transmission of nerve impulse is unidirectional process. It is one-way process. Not two-way. In next lecture, we will discuss about brain and spinal cord, means central nervous system. So thank you.